Hello, everyone. This is James Nussbaumer, and thanks for joining me in a little bit more lengthy session of Everyday Miracles Moment on Video. And today we want to really go in and talk about the deep state. Is the deep state controlling you? And if anything is controlling you in your life, whatever that may be, isn't that a reason for personal transformation? There's a lot of talk on that word, and it's a big key word that people are Google searching all the time, personal transformation. So why do we need personal transformation if we feel that we are not really totally in charge of our life ourselves? I'm going to share. I liked what John Lennon had once said, the late John Lennon of the Beatles. We all know John Lennon. He had made a statement on that Tom Snyder. Remember the Tom Snyder show? And he was interviewed there and said that, excuse me, I've still got the sniffles and I occasionally got to do this. That John Lennon said that their music, the Beatles, was very subliminal in their lyrics. And I like that. And I've always been a fan of them. So my book series is kind of written in a subliminal way to get a point across, but very understandable. Nothing that nobody has to reach too deep for. But I like to use stories of real life situations and things. And that's what is entailed in my book. So this video today is going to help us understand, is the deep state really controlling you, by a story that I'm going to share as a, as an example for what's going on in all our lives where we feel imprisoned at times. Maybe the world's controlling us. The government you live in might be controlling you. It seems like we want to pass blame on because we don't feel the freedom that we really want to get. So I think you know where I'm coming from here. So let's move on and keep in mind with me today. This is going to last hopefully under 30 minutes, but I'm doing the technical work on my own here. So if you see me looking away at things, I'm just making sure that everything's going well here on my Zoom that I use to record this video. But let me move on and talk about forgiveness does grant freedom. Now we need to understand forgiveness, because if we're going to not allow the deep state to control our way of thinking anymore, we've got to forgive ourselves first for falling into the trap. So let me continue with this story, and let me say I was nervously treading water, watching my boat sinking very fast, and I wasn't wearing a life preserver, but I could no longer swim against the current of the deep state. My world was going down like the Titanic due to my own seemingly deadly airs, and I was turning age 50 years old. And this was 13 years ago now when I turned 50, so that I'm aging myself here. But I felt anchored to the bottom of the lake, and I was lost for air. For many years throughout my adult life, a personal transformation had been urging me to shift and to come forward and to let go of any deep state of mind that something is controlling me by outer powers that are really powerless. But out of fear, I resisted because I went along with we could say, the status quo. I chose to remain in thick fog, thinking I was safer and more secure there. I felt as though I couldn't find my peace of mind. So I tried on the weird, I like to use that word, the weird belief that I could make something of myself that I was not meant to truly be. Well, that was until the summer of 2007, when this overdue transformation seemed to take charge of me by forcing its way through the obscurity that I had spent so much energy maintaining. The obscurity, you can still see obscure, meaning you can still feel the light of who you really are, but it's still obscured by too many deep matters. We can call that the deep state. So the jolt, to say the least, gained my attention. Now, keep in mind, as I have you to read something too that I'm going to point you to in a little bit, and as I go on, I'm not trying to claim myself as a victim status or anything like that. So let's get over that right now. But now, at age 63 years old right now, I'm able to look back and see what the hell happened here. Of course, my awakening was quite painful, but it was also happy too. But as I see it now, this was the beginning of an undoing process that would eventually set me free, undoing of a deep state controlling me. This undoing entailed the gradual, ongoing obliteration, we could say, of a man made thought system that I had been buying into for most of my adult life. How many times do we buy into things? Well, later I learned that the parts I believed were dying in me had never really existed at all. I would learn my beliefs were nothing but an illusion, and that what is unreal surely does not live, right? An illusion is an illusion. It does not truly live. Illusions can't be real because they're illusions, so they don't live, correct? But at the time, I felt myself drowning in a sea of disbelief, confusion, and terror. An indictment had been issued by the grand jury of the state of Ohio, and I was soon to be arrested for a selfish mistake I made through my business practice as a financial advisor. Excuse me, but not really intending to harm each other. Now, keep in mind, I'm not playing myself a victim here. Excuse me again. After 25 years in a business, one might think I would have known better. The financial services industry is where I spent 25 years. You'd think I would have known better. Well, my actions were not a part of a Ponzi scheme like we've heard of certain people, but more of a brash mishandling of money over 3 clients, totaling approximately $68,000 plus additional fees tacked onto the courts and totaling around $100,000. So you read that right. Not millions, 100,000. Actually, 68,000 is where the sentence came from. Totaling, then it was, and it grew to 72. Then all of a sudden it was around $100,000 with fees. I was exhausted. I was totally leveled. So my point is however, the funds were my responsibility and tough times had left my bottom line near empty, but I was able to reimburse the people that lost money totally. We can call that restitution. Totally repaid. The people that lost money due to my negligence were repaid and reimbursed and made whole, W-H-O-L-E. But tough times had continued for me. So let me move on and say that I was sentenced to 10 years in prison. To 10 years in prison. That's where my books were born, for those of you that know me, my ever-developing book series. But going to prison is not an easy ordeal to live with. No, it's not. And I surely never wish it on anyone. The authorities seized all of my material possessions of what was left of them. That was before I repaid the people that lost money. My assets were already seized, but some friends came forward out of, we can call it quantum consciousness, to help me along because they all saw how deep state this was involved, but we couldn't fight it other than do what we could. Keep in mind, this was in 2007. Look at what's happened since then, what's going on in the world right now today in 2021. So I had received terrible legal advice from my lawyer, who was ill-equipped to be honest enough about my case and was no match at all for the well-polished prosecutor and a judge who wanted to be known as tough. The judge set an example, all right, by dishing me out a 10-year prison term, like I had already mentioned. After I was given the prison sentence of 10 years, A lump rose in my throat so terribly as the guard snapped handcuffs onto my wrists. My lawyer gave me a wink and a nod and then whispered in my ear that he should be able to get me an early release, but the money needed to be right. The money needed to be right. He added in his best salesman voice that my daughters should sell my home on the lake quickly. He said that he had a realtor that he would send along to my daughters, and that my daughters, it would not be necessary for them to obtain their own realtor because he had an associate who would handle everything. He figured there might be some equity left before the seizure and garnishments were ordered. His words did not come close to rescuing me from the nausea, the sickness that I felt, the nausea that the fall of the gavel had produced in me at that moment. Reality slammed down hard on me. But my lawyer was right in that I would be eligible for an early release, and this was if a tiny bit of something, it was a tiny bit of something I had to hang on to. But eventually I would not be released early until a little bit over 8 long years. It only got worse. I later found that my release wouldn't be available to me until 8 years. So I had to prepare for that while I was in prison. That I knew that 8 years I was gonna, maybe, if I was lucky, to fast forward a little bit, a higher court, after several appeals, I talked about this in an early video, finally released me and realized I never should have went to prison in the first place after 8 long years. And worse yet, again, I've said in a previous video, 6 months later after I was in prison, I got word, we got the local newspaper, whatever town you were from, but it was always 3 days later. You never got the current news. So I read the front page newsline that my lawyer's death due to a drug overdose, it seems he was found face down in the winter snow of his backyard in Ohio, loaded with cocaine and an alcohol content through the roof. So searching for a new lawyer from prison would not be an easy task unless I could get some outside help. But I had time and plenty of it, knowing that I was really probably going to be there maybe 10 years, if not early. Like I said, it took a higher court until my 8th year, over 8 years, to finally release me. Of the people in my life, only a few had stuck with me, and those few continue to encourage me with their support. The others have chosen not to. And for those, I don't even try to understand or make sense of it. You got to understand that in prison, it is often said that once you are sent there, you will find out quickly who your true family and friends are. Well, many once loved ones shied away from me, and always shy, and from the talk of other inmates I gathered with, many once loved ones shy away when someone goes to prison. They just don't want to get involved. They have all their reasons, but it's sad, and that is very hurtful. I don't mean this as an attack or an accusation toward anyone at all whatsoever. It is merely a fact of life for a group of individuals who become destitute and being imprisoned themselves by the deep state and allowing it to happen. Think about it. Aren't we always afraid to get involved? We're so quick to hear on the news that must be true, he went to prison. We're always extremely thankful in prison, excuse me. I do get a little emotional discussing this. We were always in prison. We were always, as inmates, we were always extremely thankful for a shoulder to lean on or cry on, or to hug, for a good spirited mind who may write a letter to you and ask ask one thing. Is there anything I can do to help? A simple postcard may be in the mail to you while you're in prison. Is there anything I can do to help? For those who have remained behind me and for their support, they know who they are, and I am eternally grateful. And I love them, and I love the ones that wouldn't support me. And I also forgive them. But I'm so grateful for the few, the very few that have supported me. The words that you may read in my books, maybe some of you have already read my book series, maybe you're about to buy them, are about prison and life, but also about the life of the imprisonment much of the outer world lives in. The deep state, with the world itself as our jailer. If the world doesn't jail us, then often we do it to ourselves. It seems we have been preferred most of our life, seems like we prefer most of our life bondage over freedom. That sometimes it seems like we feel bondage is more safe and secure than real freedom. Sometimes aren't we afraid of real freedom? But more important, the books that I write about, with more on the way. Like I said, the ever developing series is up to book 4 right now. All of them published by Ozark Mountain Publishing Company, a mainstream publisher who found it their way to publish my messages. But more important, it's about forgiveness, what I write about, so we can release ourselves from the prison we made that binds us. No, we cannot blame the deep state. We need to blame ourselves, but we have to forgive ourselves. The deep state cannot control you unless you allow it to. And if you find yourself that has been controlled by the deep state, don't target them. Start forgiving yourself. Forgiveness does indeed grant freedom. It does. I'm not talking about the brave fronts that people carry around and often put on when we run around telling people that, I'm going to forgive you and you should be happy I'm forgiving you. That's not real forgiveness. The forgiveness I'm talking about is not toward any certain individual or groups of people we may feel have harmed us. I'm talking about forgiving yourself, meaning first by overlooking the illusions you bought into and that much of the world lives by. Looking beyond these illusions or untruths is the answer to peace of mind and freedom. And that is where real love exists. Excuse me again. The bondage I just mentioned can only occur by our unforgiving mind. For myself, it has always been a mind full of fear and unanswered questions. I thought the status quo was going to help me along in life. A continuous state of turmoil and misery always seemed to be just around the corner. Isn't that something that we all go through? Doesn't it seem like some kind of lack or misery or turmoil is waiting around the corner for us? We shouldn't have to feel that way. Sure, I was trying to hide my fear and hide from it in fear, like much of the world does, but I don't do that anymore. That's the reason for this message. I hope it's hitting home with you. Sure, I was trying to hide in fear, but I was able to let go of it and ask myself, what am I really hiding from? It seemed as though danger was always lurking, like I'd said again. But the unforgiving world, which helped us make the mind that we think is who we are, sees no mistakes, errors, but only sees righteousness in corruption. It has eyes seen through dark glasses. It wants to live, yet wishes it were dead sometimes. It wants forgiveness, but it doesn't see any hope. The deep state doesn't know how to escape from it and can't figure out. And so they want you to be in prison with the deep state. They want you to be a part of that. But you have to understand, that cell that we live in, that prison cell we live in, is not really locked at all. You're able to walk out of it anytime you choose. The door slides open with your own true free will, not governed by anyone else. Your true free will is your passion and your purpose in this world for living. I will devote my book series and the rest of the books to continue to explaining to you how to slide that prison door open and walk through absolutely free of the deep state. Hey everyone, I've got a GoFundMe page and I've got those links down in the description area here at YouTube. I hope that you will support me, because when you read my GoFundMe page, I won't go on right now, explain what it's about, but it's not just about trying to get a bunch of money. I have a purpose and a passion, and I'm dedicated to this, and I explain it all at my GoFundMe page. So please see that link in my YouTube description area down below. Also, there's another link down below about Bring Your Dreams to Reality. It's a wonderful, wonderful video by an associate of mine that put together on how to let go of the darkness and let consciousness, the light of consciousness, start shifting forward in your mind and start fading away the darkness. It truly is powerful. It's powerful. It's a free video, and I hope that you'll take a look at it. Again, my books are published by Ozark Mountain Publishing Company, a wonderful mainstream publisher. My website is jamesnussbaumer.com. I've got that listed down below, also in the description area down below, with a couple other links to my social media and things. And so take a look if you want to pursue my message further as to what's down below in the description area here at YouTube. Everyone, I just like to say this again, which I do in most of my videos, because it's important that I repeat this. I hope you're thinking a lot about your own life and all the natural beauty that is within you, regardless of the circumstances going on in your life. That natural beauty within you is free of the deep state. All you need to do is bring that forward in your material world. It's easy to do. Until next time, God bless, and thank you for listening to me today.